What's going on, guys? Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Amigoscode. In this video, I want to teach you how to have a Postgres instance running on Docker. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a Docker network and then have a Postgres instance running on Docker using the network. And then we'll also spin up a second container for PSQL so that we can connect to it. And you'll see the power of doing this, right? Because then you can take this and then, for example, use it within GitHub Actions, for example, right? And also I'm going to show you how to use DataGrip, which is my favorite IDE for connecting to databases. So this course is actually part of the best-selling course on my website. And so many students have managed to secure jobs and interviews. So if you want to learn the full picture of software development, taking an application from the ground up and then deploying with some automation with GitHub Actions, AWS, Docker, Maven, Java, Spring Boot, React, basically Spring Data JPA, testing, basically everything you need to know in order to build applications and go off and just take some of the skills that you learn from the course also and apply in your work as well, right? So this is real good stuff. And the reason why I called it professional is because I can guarantee you that you will shine, right? If you go for an interview and you talk about things that you learn from this course, you will shine. So without further ado, let me kick off and show you how to use Docker, Postgres, and then have a container connecting through the network, so on and so forth. Let's begin. Let me go ahead and teach you how to configure Docker so that we have the database up and running with a local network where we can execute the PSQL command as well running in Docker, and also how to save the data to our local machine using a volume. So this volume right here, so volume column, and this is to save the data to our local machine, because with containers, when it dies, then basically we lose all of the data, right? So let's go ahead together and open up the terminal or command line. And in here, remember, we have installed Docker. So Docker dash and then version. And this is my version currently, right? So make sure that you have Docker installed. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to create this Docker network right here. And we're going to name it as DB. So we create the network. And then once we create the container right here, then we just use this network so that this other container using PSQL can talk to this container on the other side called DB. So first, go ahead and type Docker and then network and then create, and then we give it a name. So DB for database, enter, and there we go. So now this has been created. If you want to delete, you say Docker network and then RM, and then you can say DB. So you can see that that now has been deleted, but we want to create a network called DB, and there we go. So now let's go ahead and in here, we're going to run a Docker container for Postgres. So here, what we need to do before we run any command is, so I'm going to create a folder in my desktop and I'm going to name this as DB and then dash data. So DB dash and then data. And this is because of this volume right here that we want to have, right? So if we insert some students, then we want to store the state in this folder so that if we bring another container, right? So if this container, for example, dies, then we can bring another container and then we can just reuse the exact same data by mounting this folder right here. So in here, I'm inside of desktop right here, inside of desktop. So I'm going to navigate into and then db dash and then data. There we go. Now I'm inside of this folder. Now what I want to do is to run the Postgres container. So say docker, let me clear the screen there. So docker run, and then I'm going to say dash dash name. So I want to name this as db. Then I want to say dash and then p 5432 to 5432. So this first port is the host. So this is the port that we're going to use to access it. And this is the port inside of the container. So we're just mapping these two together. Then what we need is to say dash dash and then network. So basically in here, we have the network. So we're just using it for this container. So network equals, and then to db. And here I'm going to type backslash for a new line. And then I'm going to say dash v for volume. And then here within double quotes, I'm going to say $ and then pwd. And then I'm going to map this into /var/lib/ Postgres, PostgreSQL, and then / and then data. So this is where internally the container stores all of its data. And what we're doing, we're just saying pwd. So we're just mapping this from the container into pwd, where pwd is this db data. So in fact, if I open up db data, you see that it's empty, but in a second you should see that we have some data. So then here I'm going to say dash and then e for environment variable, and I want to define the Postgres and then password, and this will be equal to password, just like that, backslash. And here I'm going to say dash and then d for running this in detached mode, and then Postgres, post, and then Gres. And basically at this point right here in this official page, we have these tags. So I can run any of these tags, to be honest. So here, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pick the Alpine tag. So here, just say Postgres : and then Alpine. If you want, for example, 13 Alpine, you can just say 13 and then Alpine if you want to play around with a specific version. So here, I'm just going to stick with Alpine, and I'm going to press enter. And check this out. It seems that this container is up and running. So if I do a docker and then ps, you can see that up status 8 seconds. And here we map the 543 on the host to 5432, or actually 5432 on the host to 5432 on the container. And the name is db right here. And you can see this was the image. And remember the volume. So if I open up db-data, check this out. So you can see that this has a bunch of things, right? This is where Postgres is keeping all of the data, which means that if this container dies, for example, we can just reuse the exact same folder, db-data. And in fact, if I do docker rm-f, and I want to delete this db right here, so db, that's the name. There we go. Now if I press the up arrow and run the exact same command, you can see that this folder right here still has all of the data, and we're just going to reuse it. So here, if I run it again, you can see that this works. Now the next thing that we need to do is, so we have the container up and running, we have the network. The name of this container for our database is called db. And then we want to use PSQL to basically connect to our container right here through our network. So the way we do it is as follows. So here I want to say docker and then run. So this will be another container, dash and then IT for interactive, and then dash dash rm. So basically, as soon as I quit this container, I want to kill it. And then here I need to specify the network. So dash dash and then network, and the network has to be the same. So DB and then space. And now we want to specify the image that we want to run, and the image will be the exact same one. So Postgres colon, and then, Postgres colon, and then Alpine. And then on a new line here, so we haven't finished. So here, now what I want to do is say PSQL and the host in here. So host. Now here you might be tempted to say local and then host. And let's try this just to see whether this will work. And then here, I want to say dash and then capital U for user. And then the user, the default user is post and then Gres. So here, let me show you. So the default user in here. So if I scroll down, you can see the environment variables. So this is an optional environment and the default will be Postgres. So we want to basically connect using this user and then press enter and check this out. So here we have an error. So it says connections on port 5432, address not available. And this is because we have this container right here trying to talk to this container, right? But this container cannot use localhost, right? So this is the reason why we have this network, so that they can talk to each other right here. And the way they talk to each other is, so in here, let me just press the up arrow and then clear the screen. And the way they talk to each other is, so basically remember the name of our, so let me just clear that for a second and say Docker and then PS. So this is the database up and running, and you can see the name in here. Now the way that we connect from this container to this one is by simply saying, so in here, instead of localhost, we just use the name. So DB. So this name for our container running Postgres. Now if I press enter, you can see that we are prompted for the password. And remember the password that we set was password. So I'm going to type pass and then word, enter, and check this out. So we are actually in. And now if I clear the screen, so Control L, I can say \L, and you can see the list of databases in here. So we have Postgres, so on and so forth. If you want to create a new database, you can say create database and then hello, semicolon there. And if I get this correct, so database and then hello, and you can see that works. And I can delete as well. So drop data base hello, and there we go. So this is super nice. And the cool thing here is that I can press Control C, or actually \Q for quitting. And now if I type Docker and then PS, you can see that the container has disappeared. So this container disappeared. And this is because of this command right here. So RM, right? And there you have it. And what I'm going to do is, let me go back to my database. So docker run it --rm using the network, basically the same command. And the password was password. There we go. Now I'm going to create and then database, and let's say student, and this with semicolon. Now I'm going to say \C connect to student. There we go. I'm now connected to student as Postgres. And now I'm going to say create and then table. And inside, let's just say name and then text. And here, I'm going to end this with parentheses and then semicolon. And for now, let's also actually give an ID. So ID, and then this will be big, and then serial, and then primary key, and then comma there, and then name, and then text. And obviously we could basically say not null and whatnot, but now let me just press enter, And I actually forgot to add the table name. So let me just go back in here and let's just name this also as student. Enter. And you can see that this worked. If I clear the screen, Control L, backslash, and then DT, you can see that we have this student. Now let's insert into and then student. And then here I'm going to pass the name and then I'm going to say values. And then here, let's just say that we want to basically have Alex. Then here we want to have, let's say Jamila, only 2 names, and then press semicolon there, enter. And I forgot the comma in here. So comma, enter, and you can see that 2 rows affected. Now, if I press Control L, select, and then start from, and then student, and you can see that we have Alex and Jamila. Now, let me go ahead and open up DataGrip. So DataGrip, it's an awesome IDE for working with databases. So here I've got DataGrip installed with Toolbox. Let me just open it up. So I'm actually showing you 2 ways that you can connect to your database using PSQL and also using DataGrip. And in fact, this is the first time I'm opening this IDE on my new laptop. So let's see database options. We want to have Postgres, and then I'm going to say start using DataGrip. And if I bring this in here, what I want to do is, so if I put this full screen, let me just make the font a little bit bigger so you see everything. So use custom font, and let's say 24, for example. And I think this is good for you, maybe. Let's try 20 or 28. Apply, and this should be fine for you to see now. So here I'm going to say new data source, and then I want Postgres, and here I'm going to leave the name as default, and then remember the host before, because we were using 2 containers. So this PSQL is running on a container and talks to this database via this network. So in this case, we don't have to do that because this is not container, right? So DataGrip is not container. So we can just say localhost, and then 5432, this is what the database is listening on. Then the user is post and then gress, and then the password is password. And the database that we want is student, so the one that we've just created. And let me just download the missing drivers. There we go. And now test connection, and everything worked. Apply. Okay. Check this out. So now I actually basically no database selected. It's fine. Let's, oops, I think it was just being slow, but we can see all databases, and then here student. And if I collapse this, so the public schema, and in here, in fact, what I'm going to do is I can just say select, and this font is also small, so let me just increase that for you. So here I'm going to search for a font, and this should be, I think, under here, and this should be something like 44 maybe. Apply. Okay. And then I can say select, and then star from, and then student. You can see that picks that up, and basically student dot let's say that this is from student, basically there. And this actually didn't pick up the schema, so here I'm going to pick that schema. Now if I execute the query, you can see that we can connect to our database and we got the data back. So this is really cool. This is giving me an error, so let's see why. So here, let me just refresh, and that is sorted. So you could see that DataGrip, basically it's super powerful, and then basically here we can see all of our data, right? And this is really cool. So if you want to delete a row, you can do it, and also you can add rows. But you can see that here we connected to our database. You can see the database name, you can see the schemas, and then inside we have the table here. So This is just a quick overview of DataGrip. And by the way, next week, I'm actually posting a crash course on DataGrip, this awesome IDE. So make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay tuned and learn about DataGrip. There you have it. So we actually have done everything in here. We have a container for our database. We also used a container for PSQL with a network and also connected with DataGrip. And this is really cool. So if I collapse this, so I'm going to leave it here. This is all for now. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know what you thought about this video. And if you want to learn more about databases, Postgres, Docker, and full stack development, so this is part of this big course right here, where you learn about front end with React, back end with Spring, connecting to a database, Maven, Jib, Docker, and then deploying the application into Amazon using Elastic Beanstalk. And let me actually show you the application as I'm building this. So here you can see that this is the current application which I'm building, and it's not finished yet, but this is actually running on AWS. So if I collapse this or actually make it smaller, you can see that this is running off Amazon Elastic Beanstalk, and it's running based off this entire infrastructure with a load balancer, an auto scaling group inside of an ECS cluster, and then connecting to this RDS instance. If you want to learn more about software development, and if you're interested about this course, go ahead and check my website where you can learn about all of this. Right, thanks for watching this video. As I said, this is part of the full stack for professionals. So I'm going to leave a coupon code, so 30% off. Go and enroll, because it's so popular right now and lots of people are benefiting from it. Let me know what you thought about this video. Literally, let me know what you thought about this video, whether it was useful. Comment down below. Also, give me a like, subscribe if you haven't done so. Join the private Facebook group. It's growing like never before. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.